Hello and welcome to TTELT, Teaching Tips for English Language Teachers. I'm your host today, Dr. Eileen Hale, the chair of our organization, and I have a brand new board member joining us today, which I'm excited to share. Sumithra Ravisunder is going to be talking to us about developing a passion for English. She has a tremendous expertise as a financial professional, but also is very enthusiastic as an English language mentor. Welcome, Sumithra. Thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
It's a thrill to have you on our team and have join the podcast as well. So can you tell us exactly what you mean by developing a passion for English and how teachers can do this with their students in their classes?
Yes, developing the passion comes in various ways. For example, it doesn't have to be formal. It can be informal in the form of, an interactive conversation with the kids. And given the fact, the first 5 years of a child's brain, um, it peaks at 90% in the first 5 years of its life. And bulk of the learning happens at the interactive interaction level. So the more the conversation with the kid, and like asking and telling, and then co-creating conversations, learning together, and then developing insights together gives them more confidence than just reading what is on the book and going with the curriculum and so on. In addition to that, I mean, that's very important, but in addition to that, I think there's a lot of impact the childhood, the learning has when they are, encouraged to converse in a freestyle. Asking and telling is one of the ways. Another ways is co-creating. Like I said, co-creating conversations are more of a, did you mean this? And the child would say yes. And then also this. As they are speaking, they are developing more thoughts and ideas about the topic in hand. And that develops literally a paragraph worth of information together. And you would have seen by then the kid or the bunch of kids would have developed the passion for conversing in a very casual style, absence of stress, much more better than in a normal formal setup is something that I truly believe in, and it works really firsthand. Even with my kids, it worked really well, and some of the ways that I learn is the way I impart others. And in fact, the way that I learn is also in a more casual setup. I mean, in during my childhood as well. And I would like, and I've often seen with the kids that I've interacted, tutored, is they take the idea faster, and they grasp it. They are able to articulate that idea faster compared to reading from the book and asking in a Q&A format. So something that I truly believe in is a casual conversation type, interactive type environment in the classroom as well.
I agree. And I think it can work for all ages. And a technique I use for creating that setting as well is letting students share, if you have young adults or older students, pictures from their telephones. And I mean, obviously you have to moderate this a little bit, but like, what did you do this weekend? And share some fun pictures, and it generates conversation naturally and use of the past tense because you're talking about the weekend or whatever. But just as an example of how you can use visuals, or you bring visuals to the classroom for students to talk about and discuss. It's a nice way to create the ambiance for that. Let's jump into the second part. You were going to talk about idioms and phrases, idiomatic phrases. How do you incorporate that or help teachers incorporate that into their classrooms? Do you have resources you use for them to integrate idioms into daily lessons, that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. I personally think, as a tutor and also teacher and also a learner, uh, this idioms and phrases are one of the most powerful ways to impart English, or impart the passion to learn English. For example, something unique. I'll give you an example, which is also a silly and a funny example. So one of the classrooms that I was volunteering, I just wanted to volunteer. It's a pre-KG at the time. So we were just talking about, using phrases and idioms. Not that they got it, definitely not. But then I gave them an example. They said, "What do you mean?" And I said, bend over backwards to make it happen. There was a lot of giggle in the room when I said bend over backwards. They said, "How do I learn when I'm bending down?" One of the kids asked me that. I went on to explain the reason, the rationale behind that bend over backwards. They were curious. You should see their eyes go big and so on. And as I transitioned into a elementary level, where I kind of help them understand the importance of using idioms and how powerful it is, and so on, I got a feedback from a child or child's parents saying that they grow more confident learning new stuff like that. Idioms and phrases are one such. It's very unique to English culture, English language as well. The uniqueness is actually is what develops a lot of confidence. And going out in the public, get rid of stage fear because you're using powerful, what do I say, statements that not many know. So it's easier to also convince the audience that you're a powerful speaker, an English speaker, and that shows in the passion that you pursue to learn something new, which is idioms and phrases for me in that sense. Yeah.
No, I totally agree. It builds a lot of confidence in the students when they realize what they can learn. A couple of different things I just wanted to mention. We had a prior episode that discusses some resources for idioms and using them in the classroom. So we'll make reference to that in our notes for our listeners. And one thing that I found really useful for idiomatic learning of expressions is through music, because most music has some idiomatic expressions in the songs, and allowing students to kind of dissect the song and try to guess what the meaning is really fun, as well as seeing if they have some similar type of idiom in their own language is also a fun way to incorporate their culture and language into the class.
I totally agree with that. I would like to add one more because you mentioning about the musical way of learning, kind of reminded me of rhymes, for example. One of the most powerful way of kind of elevating kids' knowledge, in a rhythmic pattern as well. Rhymes are often told in a rhythmic way. It's poetic, and it has a lot of idiomatic, expressions, phrases in there. And yes, goes back to at early an age, starting with rhymes, which has a lot of connotations, and to the idioms and phrases, I think is one of the most powerful way to kind of uplift their knowledge and develop their passion as well at the same time.
Great. And your last tip for developing a passion for English was through a vocabulary a day. Can you share what you meant by that?
This is one of my dearest, I would say, both as a teacher and also as a learner. Something that, English as a foreign language, for example, good application, a pragmatic application of vocabulary a day. I'll tell you about this. Kids that come to the United States, they have to go through something called TOEFL, test of English as a foreign language. And there are many sections to it. One of the section is actually developing an essay. It's an essay that you have to write with paragraphs that are very organized and so on. One of the ways that I found vocabulary is really useful, that sound you as a really strong English learner, is application of the vocabulary in developing paragraphs. They are rated. I mean, TOEFL is actually applied. It is also a predeterminant for, admission to colleges because there are complex subjects which requires comprehension of English and be able to verbalize that. So TOEFL is a powerful, English learning vocabulary and applying that in, for example, application, writing an essay, which carries about, I think they rate you between 1 and 5. 5 is excellent, 4.54, and so on. So given the fact that it determines your college admission, using vocabulary in that, it would be a very good pragmatic application of your comprehension of vocabulary. Vocabulary a day is something that I promote on my kids as well, something to learn and stand out in the crowd. It is not for any sort of flaunting or anything of that sort, but it's the comprehension, the passion that you are exhibiting in the form of learning powerful words, meaningful words, situationally, is where it comes handy. There are about 10,000 or maybe 1 million vocabularies, a vocabulary a day during a lifetime, which translates to, I don't know, maybe 30,000 over the lifetime. That'd be something powerful. It is what I thought. And I think developing that as a part of the curriculum and, for English as language also develops passion, because you're standing out in the crowd by learning by applying that. And
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah, and something that I've encouraged my students to do is create their own dictionaries rather than rely on the ready-made dictionaries. So that they
Mhm.
see their progress and they're adding pages to their own dictionary, as well as including antonyms and synonyms for the words. So that additionally builds their vocabulary, and creating a visual representation for themselves of the word to help their memory. So these are all great ideas. Again, just to recap: building casual conversations in your classroom with your students, encouraging the use of idiomatic expressions frequently, if not every day, as well as a vocabulary a day. Thank you so much for sharing these great ideas for developing a passion with English in your classroom. We'd love to have you join us again, and we appreciate your time today, Sumithra.
Thank you, Eileen. Thanks for being part of this. It was great. Thank you.